Good morning. I'm Anita Haberman. I'm President and CEO of the Surrey Board of Trade, Surrey's city building business organization. And I'm also an honorary captain of the Royal Canadian Navy, appointed by Canada's Defence Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of our Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Kwantlen, Katzie, Coquitlam, Kaikut, Semiahmoo, and the Tawasin First Nations. I'd also like to recognize that we live and work on the land of the Inuit and Métis peoples. They are a specific and very important part of our economic development pathway here in Surrey, British Columbia, and for BC and for Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, events like this simply don't happen at the Surrey Board of Trade without sponsorship. Thank you so much to our co-presenting sponsor, Beatty, our supporting sponsor, Fortis BC, and our progress partners, the law firm of Fasket, the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan represented by SNF Benefits, BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada, Scotiabank, and Western Community College. Thank you so much for your partnership and support to the Surrey Board of Trade. I'd also like to recognize on the call with us some government officials, His Worship, the Mayor of White Rock, Daryl Walker, Her Worship, the Mayor of the City of Langley, Val Vandenbroek, and City of Surrey Councillors Linda Annis, Brenda Locke, and Stephen Pettigrew. Just some instructions before we begin. All attendees are muted. If you do have a question, please put it in the chat function of the technology and we will get to them during the question period. If we're unable to get to your question, we'll send you the response after the event is over by email. Just a couple of things that I wanted to say. The Surrey Board of Trade is one of the top 10 largest chambers of commerce boards of trades in the country. There's 450 of us and we represent 6,000 member contacts. Surrey is going to be the largest city in British Columbia very soon. We're a very important part of our regional economy, that is Metro Vancouver, our provincial economy, and our national economy. And to tell you a little bit more about the Surrey Board of Trade and our great city of Surrey, please watch this video. As one of the fastest growing cities in Canada, Surrey is an opportunity city. The Surrey Board of Trade is the concierge of connections.
Rick Mann from Iona Property Group. I'm a Director of Development and Construction. We rely on the Surrey Board of Trade for a lot of advocacy and research that we don't actively go out and find. Really, like there's things on there that I had no idea about and I get the email, I get the web link, and it really affects us in a big way.
The Surrey Board of Trade is focused on making Surrey an opportunity city by instigating change at the different levels of government, offering a variety of business support services, international trade support services, and being the concierge of connections for the business community in Surrey.
My name is Rowena Rosati. I'm the Vice President of Healthcare and Innovation here at the Health and Technology District by the Lark Group. We focus on a lot of health and technologies and how we can bring different technologies and innovative healthcare solutions into the hands of clinicians. So there's a tremendous amount of information and support that the Surrey Board of Trade offers to these companies, and it's an opportunity for me to be able to translate what the Surrey Board of Trade is doing for some of those companies and helping those companies to succeed.
If it's in the agricultural sector or in the retail sector, if they're needing a government connection, if they have an issue related to government, We are there for them, and we have a proven track record of success to ensure that businesses are helped.
You know, the Surrey Board of Trade it's a great organization because anybody who is involved in that organization wants to be a more proactive member of the community. So having an opportunity to connect and network with those individuals helps our business become better.
So the Surrey Board of Trade offers an immense amount of support for businesses at all levels, including entrepreneurs and startup businesses. There are resources that help a business that they wouldn't necessarily be able to afford to contract on their own, and it allows those to be accessible, sometimes free of cost. It also creates opportunities for networking.
Whether you're a new business that's just opening up shop in Surrey, Surrey Board of Trade has to be one of your top destinations. It will connect you with a lot of the great minds in the organization, a lot of great minds in the community that can help.
So whether you're a small business or a medium-sized business or a large business, starting out or expanding, we have the connections. We have the resources to ensure that you have what you need during your journey as an entrepreneur. So ladies and gentlemen, the Surrey Board of Trade, we are the city's concierge of connections and instigator of change at the different levels of government through our government advocacy. And our Business and International Trade Center has created and will continue to create that ecosystem of support for a very diverse industry base. We have the greatest number of manufacturers in British Columbia, right here in Surrey. A third of our land base is agricultural land. This is where the opportunity is. A third of our population is under the age of 19. Our workforce development program is focused on bridging employers to employees. And we've done a significant amount of work in my 16 years as president and CEO of the Surrey Board of Trade with our regional government body, Metro Vancouver. Metro Vancouver, to speak specifically, is one of the largest affordable housing providers in the region and is responsible for air quality monitoring and regional planning, including the updated regional growth strategy, which we provided active input to. We sit on Metro Vancouver's Zero Waste Council, the only business organization focused on climate change, air quality initiatives, zero waste, economic development activities on that council. Metro Vancouver is advancing economic opportunity in a variety of ways through shared prosperity for all of our close to 3 million residents in a very fast evolving socioeconomic challenging times that we faced, especially during this pandemic. Today, of course, we heard some changes to international travel, to our border. Surrey is a border city. We're going to be hearing more from the BC government. We sit on Minister Kalon's COVID industry engagement table to ensure that we're focused, along with regional government entities such as Metro Vancouver, to ensure that we are invoking legislation to ensure that shared prosperity today and tomorrow. And I'm so pleased to have with us a very active Surrey Board of Trade member and our co-presenting sponsor from the Beatty Group. He's the Vice President of Land Development. Please help me welcome Mr. Jason Tonin. Jason, over to you.
Thank you, Nita, for this opportunity to introduce today's keynote speaker. And on behalf of BD, I'd like to thank you and your staff at the Surrey Board of Trade for the great work you do. The board is an incredible advocate for both local and regional businesses. We appreciate the leadership you have shown in championing the issues that matter for both industry and the residents of Surrey and much of Metro Vancouver. We are very proud to be the co-presenting sponsor of today's event, and we are especially honored to be introducing today's keynote speaker, Councillor Sav Dhaliwal. Councillor Dollywall has served on the City of Burnaby Council for 20 years and is a current chair of Metro Vancouver, a position he has held since 2018. As some may know, Beatty has a special relationship with Burnaby. Our founder, Mr. Keith Beatty, raised his family in Burnaby and is where he resided for his entire life and where his wife, Mrs. Betty Beatty, currently resides today. Our head office has been in Burnaby since the company's inception over 65 years ago and is where we hope to be for at least another 65 more. While every municipality is important to us, for the Beatty family, Burnaby is home. We thank Councillor Dollywall for his leadership on Burnaby Council and for representing Burnaby at the provincial level as President of the Lower Mainland Local Government Association, President of the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, and as National Director of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I have had several opportunities to meet our speaker, and have always appreciated his insight on local and regional matters. He has been an incredible leader for the city he represents and for Metro Vancouver. He is a man who has dedicated his career to public service and to giving back to the community. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Metro Vancouver Board Chair and so much more, Mr. Sab Dollywall.
Thank you very much, Jason, for the kind introduction, and to the Surrey Board of Trade for inviting me to speak with you today. I would also like to thank all of you listening remotely for taking time out of your busy schedules to support the Board of Trade and for giving me the opportunity to share Metro Vancouver's vision, economic recovery, and prosperity. I would like to begin in a good way by acknowledging with much gratitude and respect the 10 local First Nation communities located within the Metro Vancouver region. It's my distinct honor to represent Metro Vancouver as the chair of the Board of Directors. The focus of my presentation today is the role that critical infrastructure investments will play in regional prosperity and in a future that's greener, resilient, more equitable, and more sustainable. Metro Vancouver is uniquely positioned to deliver these benefits as the regional body responsible for providing vital services to over 2.7 million residents, more than half the population of British Columbia. Our core services, drinking water, wastewater treatment, and solid waste management are all delivered on vast scales. Over 1 billion liters of world-class drinking water treated and delivered every day using 3 major dams, 2 water treatment plants, and over 500 kilometers of water mains. We have 5 wastewater treatment plants and a series of regional solid waste facilities, including a new recycling and waste center under construction on 154th Street in Surrey. The new Central Surrey's Recycling and Waste Center will increase convenience of recycling and waste management for residents, reduce traffic, and help to reduce illegal dumping. Construction of the facility is nearing completion, with the opening of anticipated for later this year. Protecting vast natural areas for current and future generation is core to Metro Vancouver. We are stewards to over a quarter of the region's land base. We have almost 60,000 hectares of protected water supply lands and nearly 14,000 hectares of publicly accessible lands in our regional park systems. This includes Steinhead and Surrey Bend regional parks in the city of Surrey, as well as other popular regional parks and greenways throughout the South Fraser area. During the pandemic, the importance of our regional park system and its role as an essential service for mental and physical well-being has become more and more apparent. Our air quality and climate change function regulates and manages air contaminants and greenhouse gas emissions. This past year confronted us with the reality of the climate emergency like never before. In summer, We were forced to grapple with unprecedented heat, degraded air quality, wildfire and drought, and more recently, we faced an extraordinary rainfall emergency that severely impacted communities in the Fraser Valley and throughout the province. We were encouraged and inspired to witness the resilience and generosity of our province's citizens as the impacts of this emergency unfolded. This includes the extraordinary relief efforts of Surrey's own Gurdwara Dukh Nivaran Sahib, who found a way to deliver meals and supplies to those who needed it most. Metro Vancouver has recently struck a flood resiliency task force comprised of elected officials from throughout the region. In response to the extreme flooding, the task force will be the focus on coordination with our member jurisdictions, First Nations, the Fraser Valley Regional District, and the provincial and federal governments on plans, priorities, and funding to enhance flood resiliency. Cooperation on a global, national, and local scale will be required to mitigate the climate crisis that has contributed to these extreme weather events. As a regional government, Metro Vancouver is committed to taking the action necessary to protect our region while reducing our emissions. To that end, the Clean Air Plan and Climate 2050 strategy identify and prioritizes actions that will take us to a carbon neutral and climate resilient region by 2050. Housing affordability is in the news almost daily. Metro Vancouver is one of the largest affordable rental housing provider in British Columbia, over 3,400 units on 49 sites, providing homes for nearly 9,500 tenants. All of these services are linked by our regional growth strategy, Metro 2040, which provides the big picture strategic framework for managing regional growth and coordinating land use and transportation planning. Our updated draft regional growth strategy, Metro 2050, aligns closely with TransLink's Transport 2050 and responds to the significant challenges facing our region, including climate change, affordable housing, and social equity. Metro Vancouver is able to deliver on our core objectives through the power of collaboration. As a federation of 21 municipalities, one electoral area, and one treaty First Nation, our 40-person board works together to make decisions that benefit the region as a whole. The regional approach allows us to work from a place of strength. It provides economies of scale, cost effectiveness, and efficiency. In all of our services, we strive for reliability, affordability, and sustainability. Yet the challenges facing us are extensive and complex. We expect to welcome 1 million more people over the next 30 years by 2050. Climate change will only put more pressure on our systems and psyches. And we are still grappling with the pandemic that has challenged us all in ways that we could never have imagined. In short, resilience of our infrastructure, economy, workforce, and communities will continue to be tested. Our utility systems and other services need to keep up with the demands of growth and be more resilient to natural disaster and climate change. The time to act is now. Metro Vancouver is planning for more than $7 billion in investments in critical infrastructure projects over the next 5 years. These investments will better position us to face an increasingly uncertain future. They will also come with the significant economic benefits, creating thousands of new well-paying jobs and ample opportunities for local businesses across many sectors. Critical infrastructure investments will span the range of Metro Vancouver's services, with an ambitious expansion of affordable housing. The region continues to grow, and nowhere is growing as quickly as Surrey. It is more and more challenging for people to find safe and affordable housing across our region. Metro Vancouver Housing plays a key role in supporting this need. Metro Vancouver Housing has committed to invest $190 million over the next decade to make a meaningful impact on the affordable housing crisis. We have identified 10 priority development projects in 7 municipalities across the Lower Mainland. We are working closely with our municipal partners, and with provincial and federal support, we can leverage our investment to develop over 2,000 new and redeveloped homes on these sites. More immediately, Metro Vancouver is partnering with BC Housing and CMHC on the first phase of our redevelopment project at Kingston Gardens, located in South Guildford. Construction on this family-oriented rental housing site will begin in the spring and enjoys strong support from the City of Surrey. This redevelopment will replace 24 aging townhomes with 85 new homes. The development of Kingston Gardens is just one example of our ongoing work to develop funding partnerships to increase and renew the region's supply of affordable rental housing. Water Services is in the midst of significant infrastructure program to upgrade several key marine crossings that connect the drinking water treatment facilities to the growing communities of the region. Excavation of the second narrows water supply tunnel connecting North Vancouver to Burnaby is now complete. When connected to the existing water system, the tunnel will increase capacity and improve system resiliency. And in Surrey, construction of the Anasis water supply tunnel is set to begin this spring. This tunnel will be built deep under the Fraser River between New Westminster and Surrey. It will significantly increase the resiliency of the critical infrastructure supplying clean, safe drinking water to the growing communities south of Fraser. The largest portion of the capital budget is reserved for liquid waste services. Major projects are slated for all 5 of Metro Vancouver's liquid waste treatment facilities. This includes the most significant capital infrastructure program in Metro Vancouver's history. The replacement of the Iona Island Wastewater Treatment Plant. The Iona program will safeguard human and ecological health for generations to come and is needed for the plant to withstand an earthquake and sea level rise. It will also meet federal requirements for advanced wastewater treatment. When complete, it will maximize energy and resource recovery and will significantly reduce Metro Vancouver's overall greenhouse gas emissions. It will restore one of the world's most important salmon rearing habitats at the mouth of the Fraser River and will support the health of the Salish Sea and its southern resident killer whale population. The first phase of the Iona program begins this year with the focus on habitat restoration, ground improvements, and site preparations. It's no exaggeration that this is the most significant infrastructure program in Metro Vancouver's history. In total, it will take 2 decades to complete at a cost of projected $10.4 billion. Facility development and ecological enhancement project will create thousands of new jobs. The scale of the construction is immense. Plant upgrades will require pouring 420,000 cubic meters of concrete. That's equivalent to 69,000 truckloads. And the plant will require 44,000 tons of reinforcing steel rebar. If laid down end to end, that's enough rebar to circle the earth 1.5 times. The benefits of the Iona program for local construction contractors will be significant. Across all Metro Vancouver's major infrastructure projects, we are striving to support local industries through a procurement model that benefits multiple businesses. By breaking up projects into separate contracts awarded to a variety of businesses, we can support local workers and keep the economic benefits of these contracts within the region. Metro Vancouver's focus on resource recovery and our commitment to climate action is another opportunity to work together with industries throughout the region. Our recent partnership with Fortis BC on the Lulu Island Renewable Natural Gas Facility is a great example. By recovering energy from wastewater, this facility produces enough renewable natural gas to heat more than 600 homes, and that production is expected to increase as our population grows. Similar resource recovery and energy generation opportunities will be incorporated into a number of upcoming infrastructure projects. The Iona Island Wastewater Treatment Plant, for example, has the potential to generate enough energy to power 50,000 homes. We look forward to working with local businesses on these projects as well as with First Nations throughout the region. At Iona, Metro Vancouver and the Musqueam Indian Band are working towards a partnership agreement that will pave the way for job training, employment, and commercial opportunities, such as management of resource recovery facilities. We see these economic partnerships with First Nations as fundamental to reconciliation and an essential part of an equitable recovery from the economic impacts of the pandemic. Investments in critical infrastructures must be part of our collective economic recovery strategy, with the focus on creating long-term family-supporting jobs, protecting the environment, mitigating climate change, and meeting the demands of population growth. We are at a critical juncture. As our region overcomes the challenges of the pandemic, it's clear that investing in critical infrastructure will help us better manage and respond to shocks and stresses. This approach increases the resiliency of communities, is essential to quality of life, and underpins a strong and growing economy. At the heart of the federal government's plan for economic recovery is the objective to create over 1 million jobs through a range of direct investments in infrastructure, worker training, and the social sector. As the regional government, we are prepared to do our part, but we cannot do it alone. We will need the federal and provincial governments to co-invest with us for the benefit of the current and future generations. Metro Vancouver represents 61% of BC's GDP and about 1.5 million jobs. The province's success depends on our ability to strategically grow our economy. The past 2 years have demonstrated the need for a dynamic and resilient regional economy, and Metro Vancouver has responded with its economic development service, Invest Vancouver. Invest Vancouver is laying the foundation for a region where every resident can thrive and prosper in a fast-changing economy. It will foster greater regional collaboration across different industries, advise leaders on policy and strategy affecting the economy, promote the region to a global audience, and attract strategic investment. I mentioned earlier that Surrey is the fastest growing municipality in Metro Vancouver. With this distinction comes incredible potential for economic growth. Surrey can embrace and unlock innovation, build capacity in key industries, and build global connections to open up new markets and attract more investment into the region to create more opportunities for this expanding population base. Invest Vancouver looks forward to working together to target the industry clusters where Surrey's deep talent pool can provide a competitive advantage in order to promote the Metro Vancouver region to a global audience. The recent announcement of UBC's expansion to Surrey is another indicator of the community's strengths. The Surrey campus will attract diverse local and international talent, building capacity and providing greater access to these key industries. The UBC campus will also play a key role in advancing a more inclusive and shared prosperity across the Metro Vancouver region. Collaboration is vital to our continued success as a region. We look forward to continued collaboration with the Surrey Board of Trade, its members, and the business community, and we look for ways to improve the prosperity and livability of our region. Thank you so much for your attention this afternoon, and I look forward to our further discussions today. And with that, I will turn the things back to Anita. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sav, for your presentation. And now I'd also like to welcome Metro Vancouver's Commissioner and Chief Administrative Officer, Jerry Dubrovny, who is joining us for the question period. And just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have a question, please put it in the chat function of the technology and I will get to them. So my first question to either of you, Sav or Jerry, is as it relates to regional business attraction, can you tell us what the challenges are in terms of industrial land inventory in this region? Surrey has 27% of Metro Vancouver's industrial land inventory, as I understand it to be, but how does that impact our regional business attraction capabilities?
Well, thank you for that. And of course, everyone has been speaking about one thing which is particularly worrisome to all of us. That's the shortage of industrial and employment lands in Metro. In fact, I think there's some pressure on Fraser Valley because right now people are finding much more I guess, convenient and probably available land in the Fraser Valley region, but we are trying our best to make sure we can use the industrial lands that are currently available to the best use that we can put them to. That's why we had in 2019 Metro Industrial Land Strategy that was adopted by the board. And part of that was to see how best we can protect the existing industrial and employment lands to make sure that the growing population also is supported by growing base of jobs in the area. And I know Surrey has a big role to play there. We are working with all 23 jurisdictions to make sure that each one of them do their best to protect both the industrial land as well as the agricultural land, which helps us, one, not only in the jobs, but also both the food security and also a good living for all of our residents. We are putting those findings from the strategy of 2019 into our 2050, Metro 2050, because those actions that were identified previously by the task force, such as the intensification and protection and finding use for where more jobs be made available, that would be part of our 2050 strategy. And we work with business all the time, Anita, because when we were doing the industrial land strategy, that was elected officials, was the government official, but also the industry representative were there to make sure that we are all working for the same priorities, as well as we recognize that what challenges we all face.
So we have a municipal election taking place later this year. How is Metro Vancouver going to engage with, where we may have some new mayors, new councillors, really to ensure that all elected officials understand the importance of Metro Vancouver? How will you embark on that educational campaign?
Well, thank you. In fact, I lived through that experience in the last time when for the last election happened in 2018. When the board returned, there was approximately, I say, 3/4 of the board members were new for the first time. They had been not part of the board previously. So, so in response to that, and even in previous years when this inaugural meeting happens with the board, we make a fair amount of information available. We have orientation for the board, making sure that everybody understand the priorities and our challenges, the budgets. All those things are done very in a professional manner to make sure that people are comfortable. We have council of councils meetings, which are all elected officials are generally in sooner after the election happens, bring them together, all of them, including the councillors who do not sit on the board, to just again know much more about Metro. We'd be surprised at how many elected officials are still not as familiar with our services. So we have a program that works particularly to bring people along. And then when the new board, the new term starts, we have a couple of days we take out of our busy schedules and look at our board strategy. That's where that will guide our work for the 4-year term, and where generally you get the opportunity to network, more of knowing each other in person, and also giving you ideas to what the term should be. So it's most likely not going to be something like 2018 because the board really experienced a fair amount of new mayors then, and I have a feeling it probably wouldn't be as new, as different, but nonetheless, we do have a fairly comprehensive orientation package that involves all elected officials, and so they get to know the priorities, initiatives, and long-term plans for Metro.
One of the major economic impediments, even before the pandemic, that businesses were facing was around labor challenges, skill challenges, workforce challenges. Our labor market intelligence reports that we issue out here in Surrey indicate that's a number one issue that affects bottom line erosion. What is Metro Vancouver's responsibility, if at all, as it relates to addressing workforce challenges?
Well, thank you for that too, Anita. I think that's a well-known issue for many of us for many years, to seeing that we have a shortage. We will continue to experience shortage, but we are working very closely through our Invest Vancouver. We have now engaged education, our couple of colleges, universities and colleges to be part of that board. And this Invest Vancouver board that we just established, one of the primary reasons for that is to really take a look at the next 5 to 10 years time frame to see how we're going to be responding to the need for labor, trade skills, labor for the next 5 to 10 years. So our strategy is to predict and project what the needs of the skills and trades worker would be in the region, and work with the education education entities. And part of also of that board is to having province and federal officials who are keyed into what our strategy is, and our CAO works very closely with all 23 jurisdictions and their elected, no, their staff to get what the outlook is like. And I will invite our CAO and Commissioner Jerry Doval-Walney to maybe make a comment on that to see how we are going to be engaging our cities and others to make sure that the labor shortage is addressed. Jerry?
Sure. I mean, an example of what we've done recently is the memorandum of agreement with Amazon Web Services. So one of the largest web-based computing platforms. So separate from Amazon Shopping, they also control the web platform. And so a whole series of agreements in terms of providing education for residents of the region to learn and get micro credentials in one of the fastest growing areas.
One of the things that we've done is created a trifecta economic partnership between immigrant serving organizations, educational institutions, and really create that bridge for real-time placement for businesses that are looking for workers. And that's resulted in an overall 90% sustainability success rate these past 2 years. And that's really needed, that real-time training, tying industry needs to curriculum development. But speaking of immigrants, the federal government, they have a 3-year immigration plan, 400,000 approximately each year to address our workforce challenges. Many of them moved to Surrey. And housing is an issue. What are some unique initiatives that you're working on, or unique partnerships, such as with the not-for-profit sector, to develop housing in affordable ways, quality housing, because housing is a right. And then, it builds that foundation of living your life, and then you can move forward from there.
Well, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we know housing affordability is a challenge for our region. More so than we know it's all over the place, but Vancouver region, our Metro region is specifically is known as having an issue with affordability. There are two issues. One is housing for everyone. The missing middle that we call about, generally say, is also as having difficulty in terms of really finding accommodation. But Metro is more focused on providing affordable housing. As I mentioned earlier, it's probably a well-kept secret that we're the second largest housing provider behind BC Housing, nonprofit, completely everything really managed, and it's a self-sustained system which allows Metro to continue to support people with low incomes, people with medium incomes, and people who are generally getting into workplace. So, but that's done with a bit of a help from other orders of governments as well. We partner with the provincial and federal government. We are looking for a new funding as well. We have set $190 million for the next 10 years to add to already our 3,400 units that we have. We expect to build another 1,350 units, but if the province and the federal government join us, we can do 2,000 units. And when I say 2,000 units, they're all affordable, and most of them are, what we call rent geared to income, and also a lower end of market. But the 2050 strategy also encourages and invites local governments to really do something in terms of really creating more affordable homes, like a part of the major developments. Some of the cities are already doing that. That is, when the new development is approved, certain percentage of those new rental homes must be rental homes rather than just all having stratas. And that's a big step. It never used to be like that. 2040 didn't have any of that side. And the 2050 now recognizes the housing shortage that's been there. So housing is a big problem. We recognize that. In order to attract more skilled labor, professional labor, it is a challenge for us because we can't really compete with other cities who have a little bit of a better edge on in terms of affordable accommodation. So we're very focused on that.
Sav or Jerry, Metro Vancouver engages with the Surrey Board of Trade on an annual basis where we provide feedback to your budget on a variety of initiatives, whether it's climate change, etc. But can you speak about, Metro Vancouver is a regional government entity. There are taxation measures that are put in place to really reinvest dollars into the region. Can you talk about how that works and the impact on taxation to businesses and residents?
Well, uh, as you know, the local governments generally are very reliant on property taxes. Every service, all the services that we provide have to be funded through property taxes, and they are generally break even. We don't make any money out of that too, because we do have to generally have, whether it's our permit system, whether it's a cost of the product and services that we do provide, that's all on property tax. And we recognize how property taxes are burden, and they continue to go up every year. So what we're working with UBCM, we're working with other entities to work with the province to really think of different ways of funding how we do provide local services and how we invest into infrastructure, because it's not only that from the property taxes pay for the services, but in the past it has been also funding all major infrastructure, and much of that is borne by our businesses because they obviously pay a lot more than residential properties pay as per the assessment. So our attempts to work with the provincial governments are now paying off. I believe they are at the table trying to think in the longer term to see how the local governments would be funded, and how, when we create prosperity in the region and in the province, is shared back with the local governments. Ultimately, we have to find some alternatives to just relying completely on property taxes.
All of the items that Metro Vancouver deals with are really focused on enhancing livability for residents and for workers. But one of the key things that I'd like to know is related to Metro Vancouver's work on social infrastructure, poverty reduction. There's been some good work done previously before the pandemic that we've been a part of. Tell us what your goals are around poverty reduction, homelessness. Every person matters, right?
It sure does. Um, the reason we really focused on Invest Vancouver, it's just that we know there are a lot of jobs, a lot of people are working in Metro Vancouver. It's not shortage of jobs all the time, but the pay or the wages that they're making aren't really commensurate with what our costs are. So one of the big thing we thought when we thought about bringing some investment into the region, it wasn't just investment of any kind. The investment has to be that generates prosperity right across the board, that everyone benefits. So our focus is on now trying to get investment into certain areas where Metro Vancouver can really excel. We know we have agri-tech. We know we have now digital economy and entertainment. We have in the green economy. The jobs that we are looking for must be a better paying jobs. The existing sort of 25-30% of the people who suffered greatly during the pandemic were the ones who were making the lowest wages, and those were the first one to first of all let go, and also the ones who really were working weren't working enough, had to work 2 or 3 jobs to make a living, and those things were very apparent to us how that does not help us all. So how that has now held our living standard back, and how it has suffered, how people have struggled through. So Invest Vancouver, working with I believe the brightest minds in the region, have put in a strategy together which will take us from here in the next few years to see that we are attracting a lot more investment, but that investment is something that we know we want to make sure that is going to benefit everyone. We know we don't have uh, at this point direct control of how we can support people living below poverty, other than trying to make sure that what be the jobs we are trying to attract through with our working with our member jurisdiction, that they're focused on having better paying jobs. And the way for us to do is what we are doing right now, the investment that we're going to make, as I mentioned earlier, which is billions of dollars of investment. But when we're going to procure these contracts, we're trying to make sure that we break them to proper sizes that local local investors, local businesses can bid on them. They can also then participate and take advantage of our investment that we are making in the infrastructure. So if we are successful in doing that, and we believe that will also support the local our tradespeople, that they will be family supporting jobs, and certainly will raise the level of earnings for our citizens.
My final question to you is related to climate change. And I mentioned before, the Surrey Board of Trade sits on the Zero Waste Council, really focusing on the circular economy as a major economic initiative to ensure that every product can be reused and commercialized. Can you tell the audience a little bit about, how important climate change is, and also some initiatives related to that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Anita. First of all, also being part of the National Zero Waste Council and working with us on that zero waste. As you know, annually we do have a mini convention about that, trying to create awareness and education around how important it is for us to making sure that we are not producing that any products or anything that are simply used once and going to our solid waste dumps. So that's thank you for that. But Metro is focused on making sure that we are ready, we are prepared to really face the change that's happening around. We already know climate change has affected British Columbia, has affected Lower Mainland, but we've gone through a heat dome, for example, or the rain or the rainy season that we did, wildfires. All those things are now giving us the jolt that we no longer can take this to say it's a matter for another day. The problem is for today. So Metro 2050 is very focused on making sure that we meet our targets of carbon neutrality by 2050, making sure that by 2030 we have 45% reduction from the 2010 levels. All those things are now are built into 2050, our Metro 2050 and the climate plan. And the climate plan now is looking at 10 important areas where we are really focused on what the future building is going to be, the industry, and we're looking at transportation. We're looking at anything that generally is a major producer of carbon, to finding some solutions for that. So Metro is working with all our jurisdictions. We're prepared to make sure that every every tool we have, every chance we get to not miss the opportunity to be new carbon neutral by 2050. Metro Vancouver itself has already achieved carbon neutrality in 2019, 2020, I believe we came for 2021. And if we all did that, I think we can make a big difference. This is something that not local governments or provincial government or federal government can do. All of us have to work with together to make sure that 2050, our targets for 2050 are met. I think another example I can mention is that Metro just struck a flood resiliency task force in response to what has happened in the fall, this fall. Actually, it was winter last, to make sure that that we are prepared when these kind of weather related events are happening. So we can respond to them. We are more resilient in our response. So protecting both our ecology and our people. So this is a priority for us, Anita, and we continue to be very focused on climate 2050.
Well, staff, thank you so much. The board chair of Metro Vancouver, thank you for speaking to us. Jerry, thank you for joining us for the question period. And we look forward to working with Metro Vancouver on a variety of economic and livability issues. Surrey is an opportunity city. We're going to be the largest city in British Columbia very soon. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a wide variety of programs, events, and services to serve Surrey's business community. Check us out at businessinsurrey.com. Thank you so much to our sponsors, BD, our co-presenting sponsor, and our supporting sponsor, Fortis BC. Make it a great business day, everyone.